caught my dad and my wife holding hands in our bedroom. They admitted they've been in love the whole time. They wanted me to stay married just for show, so I exposed them at a family dinner and finally took my life back. I've rewritten this post about 20 times because every version either sounds too dramatic or too cold, and neither really captures how it felt to live through it. You know those moments when you realize the world you've been living in wasn't real, like the floor has always been a thin sheet of glass, and suddenly it cracks? That's what this was. I'm 34. Married my wife, Emily, 5 years ago. We'd been together for 7 years total. She's this soft-spoken, kind of introverted woman who has this gentle way of making everyone feel calm. People describe her as sweet, and she is, or at least I thought she was. My dad, Mark, is 58. He's always been the opposite of Emily, loud, charismatic, the guy who commands every room. My mom passed away from breast cancer 10 years ago, and since then, my dad and I have been close in that way that grief sometimes forges: quiet understanding, unspoken love, and an occasional whiskey night where we don't talk about mom but we both know she's in the room somehow. Emily and my dad always got along. That used to make me happy. I thought it meant she fit into the family well. She'd laugh at his jokes, he'd compliment her cooking, they'd tease me together when I forgot birthdays or overcooked pasta. Nothing about it ever seemed strange. Until it did. It started small, like all disasters do. I came home early from work one Friday. My team's meeting got cancelled, so I figured I'd surprise Emily and maybe take her out to dinner. I remember thinking about grabbing flowers on the way, but decided to just go straight home because I missed her. When I walked into the house, it was quiet. Too quiet. Usually, she's got music playing or the TV murmuring in the background. I called her name. No answer. Our bedroom door was closed, but that wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the sound of low voices behind it, a man's and a woman's. My first thought wasn't suspicion. It was confusion. I literally thought, did she call my dad over for something? Because he sometimes dropped by unannounced. But then I realized the way they were talking wasn't normal conversation. It was hushed, shaky, intimate. I pushed the door open without knocking. And there they were. Sitting on the edge of the bed, holding hands. My wife and my father. They both froze. It wasn't the physical closeness that hit me first, it was the guilt that hit me in the face like heat when you open an oven door. My dad's face went pale, Emily's lips trembled. For a second, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. I asked the only thing that made sense. Greater than what the hell is this? Emily's eyes filled instantly. My dad let go of her hand but didn't move away. Son, he started, that word will never sound the same again, I think we need to talk. I remember laughing. Actually laughing. It sounded wild, sharp, hysterical. Talk? My wife and my father were holding hands on my bed and they wanted to talk? Emily said, please, don't freak out. It's not what you think. That line. That classic line. But of course it was exactly what I thought, maybe worse. She started crying, saying she didn't mean for this to happen, that they had been emotionally close since before we got married. My brain couldn't process it. I literally asked, what does that mean? Emotionally close? Like friends? My dad just looked at the floor and said quietly, greater than we love each other. That's when my stomach dropped. Not just because of the words, but because of the way he said them. Calm. Like it was a fact. Like he was finally relieved to tell me. I felt my body go cold all over. I couldn't yell. I couldn't even move. I just stared at them, both of them crying now, saying it wasn't planned, that they never crossed a line physically. They swore it was all emotional, that they'd been in love for years but hadn't wanted to hurt me or cause a scene. I remember thinking, so you decided to live a lie instead? I walked out. I don't even remember grabbing my keys or shoes. I just remember ending up in my car, parked at some random gas station, staring at the steering wheel for what must have been hours. When I finally went home, they were both gone. Emily had left a note, actually 2 pages of emotional apology, full of I'm sorries and we didn't mean to. At the bottom, one line stood out. Greater than we were going to tell you soon. We thought maybe we could all stay in our marriages but live separately to avoid family drama. I read that line over and over again. Stay married but live separately. Like I was just a piece on their emotional chessboard. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch replaying every interaction, the way my dad hugged her at Christmas, how she laughed harder at his jokes than mine, how they texted about house projects. All the puzzle pieces that never made sense suddenly clicked, and the picture they made was disgusting. The days after that discovery blurred together into something I can only describe as emotional static. I went to work, came home, didn't eat. I don't remember sleeping much. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them, sitting there on my bed, hands entwined like they belonged together. Emily texted me a few times asking if I was okay. My dad tried calling. I didn't answer either. What could they possibly say that would make sense? After 4 days of silence, my dad showed up at my apartment. I'd moved out of the house that weekend. I didn't tell anyone where I went, but of course, he knew where to find me. When I opened the door, he looked tired. Old. I'd never seen him look like that before, like he'd aged 10 years in a week. "Son, please," he said, "I just need you to hear me out." I almost slammed the door, but something in me wanted answers. So I let him in. We sat at the tiny kitchen table. I couldn't even look directly at him. He started talking, voice trembling. He said after Mom died, he was lonely in a way he didn't know how to express. Emily had been there for him, checking in, helping him sort through old photos, bringing over dinner sometimes when I couldn't. He said it just happened. Those words, "just happened," made me snap. Greater than you don't accidentally fall in love with your daughter-in-law. He flinched, but didn't argue. Just kept saying he was sorry. That he didn't want to hurt me. That he still loved me, but he couldn't deny what he felt for Emily. I asked, "So what now? You two ride off into the sunset? I'm supposed to what, smile at your wedding?" He said, "We don't want to ruin the family. That's why we thought. Maybe you and Emily could stay legally married, for appearance. We'd all live separate lives." That's when I realized how delusional they both were. They'd built this fantasy where they could betray me but still control the optics of it. No drama. No confrontation. Just quiet deception. I told him to get out. Emily came the next night. She looked destroyed, red eyes, pale face, shaky hands. I expected anger, but what I got instead was this weird calm sadness. She said she didn't want to lose me as a person, even if she couldn't love me as a husband. She said she and my dad never did anything physical. I still don't know if that's true. When I asked her why him, she said, "He reminded me of you, but older. Wiser. I fell in love with the version of you I thought you'd grow into." That broke me more than anything else. It was like she'd taken every insecurity I'd ever had, about not being mature enough, not being successful enough, and confirmed them all. For weeks, I drifted. I avoided family. I told my sister I was just going through something. I didn't tell her what. I couldn't. But secrets rot when you keep them. And this one was starting to stink. I realized one night, around 2 a.m., sitting on my couch surrounded by takeout boxes, that I was letting their shame control me. They wanted silence. They wanted a hidden arrangement, no drama. But I had done nothing wrong. So I made a decision. If they wanted peace built on lies, I was going to shatter that peace. I called my sister, my uncle, and my dad's best friend. Told them I wanted to host a family dinner to reconnect. Everyone was surprised. I'm not exactly the family gathering type, but they agreed. I made sure Emily and my dad both came. They hesitated, of course. My dad asked if it was a good idea. I told him it was about closure. He bought it. So did she. I spent the week before the dinner rehearsing what I was going to say. Every version felt too small. How do you compress betrayal into words? The night of the dinner, everyone showed up on time. My uncle brought wine. My sister hugged me and whispered, "It's good to see you smile again." If only she knew. My dad sat at the head of the table like he always did. Emily sat beside me, awkward, tense, her hands folded in her lap. She didn't touch me once. I could feel her shaking every time someone mentioned family. We ate in silence mostly. My sister started talking about her kids. My dad tried to steer the conversation toward football, classic diversion tactics. That's when I tapped my glass. The sound echoed. Everyone stopped talking. I stood up, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My palms were sweating. For a split second, I almost bailed, I almost let it all slide back under the rug. But then I saw them. My dad and Emily. Sitting side by side. Not touching, but close enough that the air between them hummed. That was my confirmation. I couldn't let them have that comfort. Greater than I've got something I need to say. And it's not easy, but it's true. My sister tilted her head. My uncle poured another drink. My dad smiled that fake, politician-like smile he uses when he senses danger. Greater than a few weeks ago, I came home early from work. And I found Emily and Dad in my bedroom. You could hear a fork drop. Greater than they weren't just talking. They were holding hands. When I asked what was going on, they told me they were in love, that they'd been in love for a long time. And then they told me they wanted to keep things quiet so we could all avoid family drama. They wanted me to stay married while they figured themselves out. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just said it flatly, like I was reading an obituary. Silence. My dad tried to speak first. Greater than son, this isn't the place. Greater than no, this is exactly the place. You wanted to avoid family drama? Congratulations, you earned some. Emily started crying. My sister gasped. My uncle muttered, Jesus Christ. Greater than you could have left me. You could have been honest. But you stayed, pretending, while loving someone else. My father. You didn't just betray me, you broke something sacred. She sobbed into her hands, whispering that she was sorry. My dad put a hand on her shoulder, that same fatherly, comforting touch that now looked grotesque. My sister exploded. Greater than dad, what the hell is wrong with you? He tried to defend himself, saying he'd been lonely, that they never slept together, that love is complicated. My sister shot back. Greater than love isn't supposed to destroy your own son. I just stood there, letting it all play out. For once, I didn't have to be the one in pain. They were finally feeling it too. Eventually, my uncle stood up and said quietly, I think we should all go. The dinner was over. The illusion was dead. As everyone filtered out, Emily reached for my hand. I pulled away. She whispered. Greater than I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ruin everything. Greater than you didn't ruin everything. You ruined yourself. I'm just done cleaning up the mess. My dad didn't even look at me as he left. Just patted my shoulder like some broken gesture of goodwill. When the door closed behind them, I sat alone at that dining table. The food was cold. The candles had burned low. But for the first time in weeks, I could actually breathe. Over the next few days, the family split like fault lines after an earthquake. My sister stopped speaking to our dad. My uncle called me to say he respected what I did, said it was brutal, but necessary. Word spread, of course. Extended family found out. There was no hiding it anymore. Dad and Emily tried to go low contact after that. They moved away, last I heard, a few towns over. I didn't block either of them, but I didn't reach out either. You can't rebuild trust when the foundation was built on deceit. Months passed. I started therapy. I told my therapist that I felt like I'd lost two people at once, a wife and a father, and she said something that stuck with me. Greater than sometimes closure isn't about forgiveness. It's about deciding you're done being broken. I started living by that. I got my own place, filed for divorce, and poured myself into work and hobbies I'd ignored. I started hiking again, cooking new recipes, and taking weekend trips by myself. I stopped waiting for apologies that would never feel real anyway. The weird thing is, I don't even hate them anymore. That sounds impossible, I know. But hate keeps you tethered to the past. And I'm tired of being tethered. It's been almost a year since that dinner. Last week, I got a letter from my dad. Handwritten. He said he and Emily are trying to make things work, and that he hopes one day I'll understand. I didn't respond. Because I do understand now. I understand that love can be selfish, that people can twist it into excuses for cruelty. But I also understand that none of that defines me. What defines me is that I walked through hell, told the truth, and came out still standing. Sometimes I still wake up from dreams where my dad's sitting at that table, trying to explain himself, and Emily's crying beside him. But then I wake up, take a deep breath, and remind myself. That's their story now. Mine's finally my own. Final update. Hey everyone. It's been a little over a year since I wrote the original post, and I figured I'd come back with an update because this sub, and a few kind DMs from strangers, genuinely helped me find my footing again when I was at my lowest. A lot has changed, mostly for the better. The divorce finalized 6 months ago. It was quiet. Emily didn't contest anything. No spousal support, no fights over assets. I think she just wanted it over too. I showed up to the final hearing alone. She came with her lawyer, avoided eye contact the entire time, and when the judge stamped the papers, that was it. 10 years of history reduced to a few sheets of legal paper and an awkward nod. She moved out of state after that. I don't know exactly where, but a mutual friend said she's working part-time at a small art studio. I don't wish her badly, I just don't wish anything for her anymore. She's someone I used to know. My dad. That's trickier. For a while, I thought maybe time would dull the anger, but honestly, it just changed shape. It's not burning rage anymore, it's this cold, sad understanding that he'll never be the father I thought he was. He reached out again around Thanksgiving. Said he wanted to meet man to man. I met him for coffee, mostly out of curiosity. He looked older. The kind of older that guilt carves into your face. He told me Emily left him 2 months prior. Apparently, she couldn't handle the fallout, the whispers, the family cutting them off, the way nobody invited them anywhere. He said she needed space. He tried to sound stoic, but his hands were shaking the whole time. He apologized again. Properly this time. Not defensive. Not rationalizing. Just said, "I ruined my son's trust, and I'll regret that until I die." And for the first time, I believed him. I didn't forgive him, but I believed him. I told him forgiveness wasn't something I was working toward. Peace was. And I finally had that. We ended the meeting with a handshake. It wasn't warm, but it wasn't bitter either. Just human. If you told me a year ago I'd be writing this update feeling calm, I would have laughed in your face. But I'm okay. Genuinely okay. Therapy helped. Time helped more. I started hiking again, really hiking, not just short trails. I took a solo trip to Colorado last month, and somewhere along a ridge trail watching the sun melt into the snowcaps, I realized I wasn't carrying their story anymore. I was living mine again. I even started dating someone new about 3 months ago. It's slow, cautious, and honest. She knows everything. There's no pretending, no hiding. She laughs easily and listens without judgment, things I didn't realize I'd been missing for years. I still have scars. Trust isn't something that just reappears. But I'm learning to live without fear. The house Emily and I shared? I sold it last month. I didn't even step inside for the final walkthrough. I just handed the keys to the realtor, got in my car, and drove away. No nostalgia. No sadness. Just this quiet relief. I stopped checking if my dad or Emily ever tried to contact me again. Their chapter in my life is over. What I do have is myself, finally whole, finally steady. Sometimes I think about that night at the family dinner table, the way my hands trembled as I told the truth. I thought that was the end of everything. Turns out, it was just the beginning of me. If anyone out there is sitting in that same darkness, holding a truth that's eating them alive, I'll tell you this. Speak it. Even if it burns. Especially if it burns. Because on the other side of that fire is freedom.